Greetings and welcome to the B&H event space. My name is Allan Weiss, and while some of you know me as the host of the B&H podcast, I'm here tonight to help introduce a brand new wonderful camera from Canon, the 6D Mark II. Joining me are three distinguished guests. Drew McCallum has been a professional photographer for 20 plus years. He shot on assignment for Home Depot, Peapod, and other familiar names. For the past 10 years, Drew has worked for Canon as an educator, field rep, and senior technical specialist. Also joining us is Liza Gershman, who's not only an award-winning food and lifestyle photographer, she's also a writer, and that goes pretty far with me. Liza shoots, writes, and teaches workshops for Canon at conferences and at trade events. Liza was also the in-house photographer for Williams-Sonoma, as well as Governor Jerry Brown's campaign photographer. My last but not least, my friend here, if Yoda was a photographer, his name would be Melkor Digiacomo. A visually and technically disciplined self-taught photographer, Mel first picked up a camera in 1968, in his words, by accident. He's since worked for Time, Newsweek, Sports Illustrated, People, Parry Match, Tennis Week, Stern, and New York Times. Mel's a longtime SLR, DSLR shooter, and though he has tinkered with mirrorless cameras, at the end of the day, he remains a DSLR devotee. We're going to start off right now with Drew. Drew, my understanding, and I think I'm correct about that, is that this new camera, the 6D Mark II, is a vast improvement over the 6D in terms of performance. Can you give us an idea of some of these new traits?
Yeah, thanks, Alan. We took a lot of customer feedback when we went to look at the 6D Mark II, and I think we hit a lot of points that people were looking for, such as an increased resolution. We went to 26.2 million pixels. We kept the optical viewfinder, but we also went to a 41-point AF system, so we really upped the autofocus system from the 6D, which was an 11-point autofocus system.
And from what I hear, it's really responsive.
It's extremely responsive.
Yep.
It's the same type of response we could have ADD and other products like that, so it's fast.
Cool, cool. Liza and Mel have spent some time with us. We're going to get some feedback from them as well. So feel free to jump in. With some of the other items that we have the autofocusing, we have the size of the sensor, but I think an important thing that I know Liza and I were talking about is the screen on the back. You want to give us some idea about what you felt about it?
Absolutely. A feature that's new on this camera that I've really enjoyed working with is the touch screen on the back of the camera. So we're so accustomed to touch screens on our smartphones, and now we have a DSLR that gives us an opportunity to easily go through menu features, just touch and go, and then also choose specific focal points. Now you just touch on the back in your viewfinder what you're looking at. Also, I was photographing with Drew. We were in a dark bar the other day. I photograph a lot of food and cocktails, and it was so easy to focus in this very, very dark space because I used a little bit of light and then just touched with my finger the specific area that I wanted to be sharply focused, and it was like magic. And it's something that I could see, you know, if you're a food blogger or if you're a food photographer or even an amateur that's passionate about food, this would be a fantastic camera for you to use in dark restaurants, in kitchens, and then also in bars.
I think also for documentary and street photography, you don't have to hold the camera up to your eye. You could actually hold it at waist level, tilt the screen. It's a tilt screen. And actually work as if it's a keyboard and touch it. In the meantime, you're photographing somebody and they don't even know it.
Well, that's nice because right now the camera's pointing in that direction. So let's say my subject was over there. I'm looking here. If I were like this, the subject would see me and change whatever they were doing. I'm trying to get a candid moment, but I'm looking here. So I'm really deceiving the subject, if you will.
You know, something that I've heard a lot of people say is that the big argument for not having a tilt screen on a professional camera is that it makes it a little bit more vulnerable to damage. Now, honestly, I have cameras with tilt screens and I use them all the time. I find that they give me a lot more creative expression, a lot more freedom to work. And quite honestly, I've never broken one, and I can be pretty rough on a camera.
Well, this is solid.
That is a solid one. That is well made.
We've got swivel screens on our professional cinema cameras, and it's not one of those points where we really have to worry much about. I mean, it's a strong swivel screen. It's not a weak point by any means.
Yeah, the whole camera is solid.
What's also new for a camera of this quality is when you see the screen is out, this is where you would view and this is where you take an image, you can sync this up to your smartphone through the Canon app, and you can take the images without touching the camera. So if you want to do selfies, if you want to do group photos, this is a perfect camera for that, and it takes it up to an image that's such a high quality. I thought that was incredible when I was using it the other day. If you're somebody that's photographing a lot of street photography like I do when I travel, like Mel was saying, this is a great camera for that. I can be looking through the viewfinder here even. This could be on a table, and boom, boom, boom. I'm getting an image of something very discreetly. So it's fantastic for travel photographers and street photographers, and it just moves with such ease. You don't always find that on a camera with a screen that's out like this. Sometimes they stick, but I really enjoyed the functionality of this, and it was new for me to use.
On it.
It is very fluid, and that was new for me to use a camera with a flip screen like this. So as a professional who's working in the field all the time, not only is it of a quality, an image quality that I'm accustomed to, or that I really need for my clients, but it has these features. You know, they're new, and they're things that I would use. Maybe I would use my smartphone on the field for that particular thing, but now I don't. This would replace that, and I would have a much higher quality.
It's like having a small smartphone with a real camera attached to it.
Exactly.
It works very nicely.
Exactly.
Indeed.
Drew, if we could take one. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
No.
Well, one of the things, and Liza knows this because she travels so much, there are so many interesting photographs in airports. So when you're looking like this, and your camera's pointing over there, and the subject is over there, you know, you get these photographs that you normally wouldn't get. And you have to be careful because the people are going to object. And I hate saying this, but we photographers are thieves. You know, we're constantly stealing moments. So if I'm going to make any excuse for what we're doing, these moments are important. So we have to be stealthy, if you will.
We do, and sharing these moments instantly is really such a mark of 2017 and the future. So with this camera, you can, in conjunction with the Canon app, you can use a built-in Wi-Fi system.
Right.
Drew, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we were actually doing that when we were in one of the restaurants, and we were working with the camera. You actually had the food on the ground.
Yeah.
You put the plate of food on the ground. People were kind of giving us some odd looks, but she put this full grilled fish on the ground. She's using a swivel screen.
Well,
we started talking about it. It was a nice floor.
Yeah.
But then we went into the app and we were able to make adjustments to it. Pull the image down. We can make adjustments to the file right then and there. I actually had the GPS system running while we were doing it. You didn't know this, but I tracked our path all throughout wherever we were in the village somewhere. We were just all over the place. And we must have hit 25 places. Yeah. So I have a log of everywhere we went.
Amazing.
So it was so much fun. Every image is tagged with where we shot.
So that would come into handy in my professional work as well, because when I'm traveling, I don't always have the ability to do diligent note taking, right? Sometimes I forget, or sometimes I'm in a situation where it's a grab shot or something's happening quickly. And so for me, when I get home, maybe it's a month later, I don't always know where my image has come from. And if there's GPS tracking, it instantly would label that. Something else that I loved about this camera, in addition to the GPS tracking, was that I lose memory cards sometimes if I'm traveling. My suitcase gets stolen. You can't always back up on the road. You never know what will come in front of you, but we immediately transferred the images from the camera to my smartphone, and right there, like, it was so instant. It was quickly as airdrop. And I said, well, I spend a lot of time in Cuba, and there's not often Wi-Fi in Cuba. Will this work there? And Drew said, absolutely.
You can be in the middle of the desert and it'll work.
You can be in the middle of the desert and it will work. So even though this camera doesn't have 2 slots for memory cards, you can have an instant backup from your card, and it was so seamless. I was blown away. So I would absolutely use this as a camera on my travels.
Right. You know, I think any of us who have been taking pictures for a while, going back to film days, some people made a lot of noise that there's only 1 card slot in it. Well, I remember when you only had 1 slot for film.
Me
and
too.
you had 36 pictures on each roll. So to
or 12.
me, I mean, or 12 exactly. So
12 back.
This is fine. I can live with 1 slot. Drew, if we could take a step backwards.
Sure.
This is a full frame camera.
This is
Canon,
yes.
And it's part of a larger system. Where exactly does this one fit in the entire lineup? How would you position this camera?
That's a really good question. This 60 has always been our entry into the full frame realm. We've had advanced amateur cameras that are basically our ADDs and things like that are a step up from the Rebel class to get you into a little bit more advanced, a little bit faster, a better autofocus system, a little bit more durable, a little heavier balance. So the 60 has always been that type of product where it's a step from maybe the 80D or Rebel class into the full frame realm.
Right.
The 62 takes that same type of market target, if you will, in a way. Not to say it won't go to a pros, because I will work with this all day long. This has been so much fun. It's so lightweight.
It's so lightweight.
Yeah,
So that's
we didn't feel it as we were walking around town.
That's a big complaint that I have as a petite photographer, is that the gear is often so heavy that after a full day of carrying something around, after a big shoot, I always have to go to the chiropractor. And this is so lightweight compared to the other camera that I use, the other Canon I use all the time. And I would have no problem walking around this 8 hours and go back to my hotel or house or whatever it is and be able to feel like my body hasn't been destroyed. And so for petite photographers, I think this is going to be such a blessing. And I also think another application for this, I used to photograph weddings a lot, and after a full day of wedding photography, your body really can hurt. But you could easily strap one or two of these across your body and it would be the equivalent of one heavy camera, you know, with a big battery case. So I think for weddings, this has so many other applications as well. Being able to show people, look, I'm photographing you, let's do a selfie together. All of those applications are interesting. At a wedding or in so many circumstances when the light's changing constantly, let's say you're a photojournalist or a sports photographer, you have to quickly go through the menu to make changes. And sometimes a menu is so robust and so cumbersome that it takes a while to find the dial that you want, or changing your ISO. Where is that? I can't remember. But this case, it's touchscreen menu, and I felt like it was really easy to navigate, and it would be a much more rapid process in decision making. So when I find a menu to be cumbersome, this just negates that and has an easy to use menu screen, and it's all touch screen. So I really also appreciate that about this camera.
Now, the big advantage for me is I love the full screen, because it gives me an opportunity. If I can't get close enough to a subject, and let's face it, Robert Capa's line is well taken, if your pictures aren't good enough, you're probably not close enough.
Right.
If you can't get close enough at some time, and there are plenty of times, and I'm sure Liza realizes this, you can't get close enough, the fact that you can crop here with impunity, I'm not going to say you're going to crop that much of the frame, but I've cropped half the frame on so many photographs, and they hold up. The other thing is, I haven't used a flash in 3 years, because I'm not afraid to push this up to 64 or 10,000 when I do weddings. Now, let's face it, there are two kinds of wedding photographers. Guys that like to use the flash, and they come up with, well, I'm trying not to be critical, but the pictures are cold and they're hard, whereas this, they're genuine and they're real. Again, I'm shooting in black and white, so maybe I get away with a lot more.
I think also in color, it's also true. I've noticed that shooting at night in color especially was always been really, really tough, because the exposure is just, it's impossible to get a good exposure. But with the new cameras, especially cameras from Canon, you could put the ISOs up just way up into the heavens and handhold pictures in real low light and get very interesting, real-looking pictures.
You're not going to believe this. I swear this is the truth, and I can back it up with a photograph. I was at my cousin's wedding. The disc jockey decided to turn the lights red. He had them, they were orange and yellow, and there was plenty of light. I was shooting around about 6,400. All of a sudden, everything was red. I go, oh, nice. I turned to the disc jockey. I said, I just lost 4 stops. He had no idea what the hell I was talking about.
Probably like many of you who are watching this telecast back.
So I said, all right, let me see, because I've never really been down that strange road of going beyond 10,000. I went to 1,250, whatever the next stop is, and I went to 1,500, and I went to 25,000. And I'm saying to myself, no, it can't go to 25,000.
So for those of you who aren't familiar with high ISO, which is film speed in a digital age, a typical camera, 1600 is sort of where ISO has maxed out for a long time, of things still looking really clear and good. 2500 or more might be advertised on the camera, but for something incredibly clear, Historically, until recently, it has really, I've thought 1600 is kind of, for me, the end. And this camera, when I experimented with it the other day, we went into the lowest light bar we could find in the East Village.
There was one candle in the place.
There was one candle in the place, and it worked phenomenally well.
It focused.
It focused. It took a beautiful image.
Yeah.
It gave so much light. So I'm really impressed by this camera, and you know, I think there's so many applications for it besides food and weddings and people photography and street photography. But if you're a nature photographer and you want to get those gorgeous sky images, I think this absolutely is a camera you could use very well for that. The ISO range is beautiful on it.
I think one of the other things that photographers don't want to be bothered with, they don't want to be bothered with the technical aspect of the camera. They want to set the camera for the ISO, they're wherever they are, and forget it.
Or auto ISO for many of you watching.
Actually use auto
Well,
ISO
you can't
a lot.
do that. You can do that indeed. I haven't learned to master that, to be honest with you. I always put it on manual, and I want to be in control of everything.
Sure.
But I shot this one wedding, and it was 25,000 ASA, and I still find that incredulous.
Drew,
and it's
what
a
is the
wonderful
ISO
photo.
on this camera? What is the maximum?
Natively maxes out at 40,000.
And what do you think is the highest we went to where it still was really, really beautiful and didn't have that rainbow pixelation that you can find when you're going above?
Pretty sure we were up there in the 20,000 range.
Yeah, we were very
way
high.
up
I mean, it was
there,
a very dark location, and the image turned out beautifully. So,
but it's also the difference of having the image or not.
true.
Right?
True.
We had
absolutely.
an image.
We had an
when
image.
in some cases, if you don't raise the ISO, you come away with an image that's not either usable
True.
or anything at all. And I'd rather have an image with a little bit of noise or a little bit of grain or a little bit of atmosphere to it.
A little bit of grain.
truth,
Well, we
there's
grew,
nothing to
If
that.
you're photographing
we
a
grew
family
up with
party,
grain. I mean,
you
you know,
know, if you're
1600 was Grainsville.
Right, it was.
You know, or if you
absolutely.
got recording film and you pushed it 2 stops, you were at 4,000. That was just beyond the pale.
You know, the truth of the
those
matter is,
days.
if you were to go to any good photo gallery, Museum of Modern Art, any place that's a good photo collection, and you looked at the most iconic photographs that exist, many of them are grainy.
Super
many of them
grainy.
are soft.
Oh,
many of them
sure.
have blur.
Sure.
Resolution is phenomenal. There's nothing like being able to get every last detail. But it doesn't mean that you need it to get a good photograph, and that's what gives a photograph character, personality, and sometimes I'll ramp up the ISO just to be able to get that.
Just so you can get that
Just
look.
for that particular
And for a
indeed.
documentary recording sense, you know, it's so valuable. In 2017, I think so much of our society is about recording your friends and your family, and this camera absolutely allows you to do that. If you're at a party and it's a little bit dark, you don't have to worry because this has an ISO capability. If you're on your family vacation and you're at a restaurant, you don't need a flash because this has the ISO capability. So I think beyond just people who are very advanced amateurs or early in their career, I think this camera could be wonderful for anyone who wants something just nicer than their smartphone to take anywhere. You know, it's lightweight, it's durable. This camera is great in different weather conditions.
It's weather resistant. That's
it's
also
weather
very important.
resistant,
Yeah.
which is so important because you never know. Even walking around Manhattan in an afternoon in the summer, you could suddenly be in a rainstorm. And what do you do with your camera? You know, I'm always hiding something under my shirt, but your shirt gets wet. So you don't have to panic that you've made this investment into a piece of technology and that it won't last. It will. It's definitely made. And something else that I'd love to speak about is beyond how much I like this camera is how much I like Canon in general. And anytime you have an issue with your camera or you need a repair, their customer service is immediate and they fix your repairs so rapidly. People are so lovely to speak with on the phone. No one ever makes you feel like you're stupid for asking a question that I ask questions that I think are stupid all the time. I mean, Drew is such a tech person, and I will text him. You probably can't text him, but I will text him. We're not going to give you his number, but I will text Drew and I will say, my camera's not working. You know, I dropped it. I'm in the middle of Cuba. I'm not sure what to do. And he'll say, did you try blah, blah, blah? And I'll say, oh, thanks. But even if I didn't have that direct access to Drew and the tech department, anybody who is a Canon user has exceptional access to immediate help with the tech department.
Right.
And the camera, you can send it in and it always comes back shiny and new. So even beyond the excitement of this product, which I think is tremendously exciting, it really is an exciting camera, is also just Canon offers something that no other camera company is offering, and that is the people who work there, the customer service, the attention to detail, and the kindness. And in this day and age, having a little bit of kindness when you have a problem goes really far, because
all of our services here in the U.S.
Yeah, all the services here in America. You're supporting an American branch of a big company, and people are always friendly. And Canon is at so many events that if you're going out to a big event, let's say you're going to the Super Bowl, stop by and see. There's going to be someone from Canon there. There's going to be an entire team.
That's our CPS crew.
They will say hi to you, and they'll talk to you about the camera you have. Even if it's not a camera made by Canon, they are still going to talk to you about your camera and help you use it. That's just how Canon is. It's primarily about educating people and just loving that more people are excited about the photographic process, and that's what's most important.
Well, Canon's carried me at the U.S. Open. Not that I'm dropping names or anything. But,
it's okay to name drop. They carried me at the America's Cup.
Yeah, but, it's just so nice to, have your choice of. There are so many cameras you can choose from, so many lenses you can choose from, and it sustains me for 2 weeks.
And you don't have to get overwhelmed with choices of lenses. That's something I always say to people when I'm teaching classes, is if you just want to pick one lens and work with it, there's still amazing lenses.
But Ernst Haus answered that for us. He said the best lens you have are your feet.
Exactly.
You want a wide angle back up.
Mom.
You want a telephoto move in.
Exactly.
Yeah, you could have told me that before I schlepped a whole bunch of gear into the city. And she picks the 50 out of the bag and she goes, "This is all I need. You can leave the rest of it here."
I love the
Liza.
24-1.4 because you can shoot in a closet and photograph moths with that thing at 10,000 ASA. And shoot wide open.
Right.
And there's no fall off on the edges. It's really a beautiful photograph. The other thing I will say is, you were mentioning at parties, Liza, the one thing that used to drive me crazy at parties was using the flash. Because nobody wants to see that flash.
It's true.
Especially when you're 5 feet away from them and you're blasting. This thing is so much more discreet. It's so much easier. And you can weave in and out of a crowd and nobody's going to yell at you.
And the pictures look real when you shoot without a flash.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
You've got the ambiance. You've got everything around it, not
beautiful.
just the subjects that are just blasted with a flash if you don't know how to control the light that well.
So can we just go back, sorry, for a moment? I had a question earlier from a friend about the speed of the Wi-Fi and connectivity. And I don't have those answers. So can you talk a bit more, please, about connecting the camera to your phone and how that happens and how quickly that is? And
it's I will, and there's been some history where it's been a pain point to set up Wi-Fi, and I won't disagree with that. the new systems that we have that we've introduced within the last year, I start with the Bluetooth connectivity. The cameras have a Bluetooth that's constantly connected to your mobile device, whether it's your iPad, your iPhone, your Android, whatever it is. It keeps it connected. And it's a low energy connection, so you're not going to drain either your phone battery or your camera battery.
That's great.
On a large scale. We walked around the entire day and we didn't go through any battery. We still had full charge. So the Bluetooth keeps that connection, and then when I go over to my device and click on the Canon Camera Connect app, then I can decide, do I want the camera to pull down images or do I want to remotely control the camera?
And it's a free app to download.
It's free. It's free from either App Store or whatever. We don't charge for it. It's not a photo editor. It's more of a control piece.
Right.
So it's all going to depend on the Wi-Fi situation you're in, and we can go through an infrastructure network if we wanted to. But in reality, we can just go right from camera to device. It's fast enough. I'm pulling down images, and it all depends on the device that you have. So the speed's going to be one of those questionable, depending on the device.
But it was
it's
really quick when
802.11n,
we
so
were
it's fast.
using it.
It's fast enough to pull down images, and you won't have to sit there and wait at all. It's on your phone in just a second or two.
So it's an instant way, which is so remarkable. It's an instant way to get an image that you took off of a high-quality camera right onto your phone, and then instantly I could text it to you. So let's say you asked me to take your picture. I don't know you. We're at a party. I can instantly send it to you. I can share it on social networks. I can save it. I can email it to myself as a third backup. So if I'm on the road as a travel photographer and I'm nervous about losing my micro card, that's this big, I can instantly send it to myself. I can share it on social media, and then I can email it to my cloud storage. So that's 3 ways of backing up within fewer than 5 minutes.
Oh, easy. And
It was
it's-
the fastest connection.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
NFC too. If you have an Android device, you just touch the device to the camera, and it will actually launch the app. If you don't have the app on your Android device, it will go and hit the store and say, "Here, download this first." It's that smart.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat. Yeah. So.
I have a question for Mel and for Liza. We addressed the camera as the entry-level full-frame camera from Canon. And we talked about the attributes, what you gain from going from, say, a phone or from a point-and-shoot or an APS-C camera to full-frame. Now, the two of you also use Canon's top-of-the-line cameras, which cost, what, 3 times the amount of this, and they're tanks. They are literally the top-of-the-line cameras in the industry.
Absolutely.
How is it going from those cameras to this entry level? Do you feel you've lost anything
This
as
is
far
an
as
entry
creativity
level?
and flow?
This is an entry level.
For full frame?
Somewhat, yeah.
I don't see any difference between this
I don't
and the
either.
5D Mark III, to
I-
be honest with you.
I don't see any difference, and what I like about it is that it's much more lightweight than my cameras, and it's faster.
yeah.
I use a camera.
You're 5DSR.
I'm allowed
Yeah.
to mention
Yeah,
the
you
other
can say what you
camera.
choose. Yeah.
So I shoot a lot with the 5DSR, and I love that camera. But when I'm doing travel photography, it's a little bit heavy. It's a little bit slow moving because it's 50 megapixels, and so that camera is primarily for when I'm in studio. And I love that camera when I'm in studio. But when I'm in the field, it's not the best device for being in field. But this is, and I think the pictures turned out fantastically well. You know, so I am absolutely considering bringing this exclusively on my next trip. So, or I am
I
bringing
don't
it
know about-
exclusively on my next trip, which is next week.
I don't know about the rest of everybody in here, but I do not shoot in RAW. I shoot in large JPEG. And,
I shoot in RAW.
well, I think you have to because of your clients.
Yeah.
But as a street photographer and shooting in black and white,
Yeah.
RAW, if I can make a 20 by 24 out of it, what do I need anything bigger than that? I mean, I really don't. If I want, I can make a mural size, and that JPEG will hold up. I'm amazed. So, you know, you can argue RAW. It's rare when I shoot RAW.
Yeah, but the thing is, the good side is you have the option. You can
Oh,
choose
yeah.
one or the other
Oh,
or both.
absolutely.
You have the
And
option on
you-
this
yeah,
camera
yeah.
to shoot both simultaneously.
Absolutely. No,
So,
I mean, there are
you know.
plenty of people that have to shoot in RAW and do shoot in RAW, and I think that's mostly the color photographers. But it's rare when I shoot in color, but I'll say this much. If I always shoot in color. I convert it
Right.
to black and white on the computer, but it's a large JPEG. I can take a large JPEG that I shot in color and with no exaggeration make a 20 by 24, and it's exquisite. So if you want better than that, I don't know what more you can ask for a camera.
We now have in excuse me, a lot of our models, we have in-camera RAW processing. So we can actually shoot RAW and convert to a JPEG in camera with changes. So we can change our white balance, our color tones, our sharpness, our clarity,
incredible.
some brightness and contrast. So we can do that in camera and output the JPEG
Well,
right there for you.
How do you do that?
I'll show you right after this.
Thank you. You don't mind if I call my son and have him listen, because
Yeah.
I don't understand any of this technical talk, and he
So-
does.
That's okay.
One more thing about this camera that's really incredible is it is the quality of a professional SLR, and I'm not just saying that. I'm incredibly picky about cameras, as you know,
Yeah, you
and I really am. But it is the quality. I really enjoyed using it, and the price point though is for this level of a camera extraordinarily reasonable.
Right.
So if you're somebody who is interested in scaling up from using your smartphone and you don't know what to be getting, and you know, this is so much more worth your investment than the Rebel, which is also a great camera series, because this, I think, offers so much more. And you could, you know, it is more expensive, but this is the camera that I would suggest you go get. I think it's really going to be worth the while. It's a great investment. And again, anytime anything breaks on a camera, if it's Canon, you get it back so quickly, and the repairs are very reasonable. So you can join CPS, and then I think they're almost free.
There's quicker turnaround and discounts and all that
Wait a
stuff
second.
apply.
Are they almost free or are they free?
Well, there is a free level.
There's a free level.
There is a free level. So if
choose,
you would like,
I used to just call Joe Delore and he'd say, all right, I'll send you one.
But not everybody drops cameras as frequently as I do. So, you know.
I would hope not.
I would hope not too.
Well, I'll tell you this much. You drop one of these suckers, they're pretty solid.
They're pretty
I know
durable.
My Canon 5D Mark III, I've dropped it once in a while, and I tripped on a step, and the first thing that came down was the camera, and the camera was fine. So was the lens. I was amazed that nothing had happened. Everything was fine. So I have no complaints.
Earlier we were talking about pluses and minuses, and the minuses for the camera, or the negatives, were the dual card slots. Some people are going to complain they need to have it. We addressed that. Another thing was
it's
video.
Not necessary.
It's not necessary, but video. The camera is it's 1080.
1080 60.
1080, okay, 60. And somebody would say it's not 4K.
No, it's not 4K.
It's not 4K.
It's not 4K, and
There you have it, it's not 4K.
it's understood, and it's one of those things we have to balance out: features, performance, price. There's a lot of things that go into developing cameras, and a lot of times pushing that technological boundary and all of that doesn't maybe fit that specific model. We have models. We've got the 5D4. We got 1DX2. We've got XC15s. We've got cinema products. We've got 4K options out there in larger sensors. Remember, this is a full frame sensor.
Absolutely.
At $2,000 for the body.
Yep.
So there's a lot of options for the 4K option, and we have that out there for very high quality 4K. Those are DCI 4K. Those are cinema production level 4K products. So yes, I understand. We understand. But for this product, it's,
That's a remarkable price, though.
Yeah, it's a balance.
Price.
It's a balance.
No, it makes sense to me. If you look at the entire product line, everything has its own little place, and that's where this one is. And yeah, 4K is the next step up. If you need it, you go to the next camera up.
Right.
If you don't need it,
I would like to have a memorial service for the 20D, though, because I used the 20D for years, and I love that camera. It was, and I give it all the abuse anybody could give it, and I used the pop flash constantly.
And how much was that camera?
Oh God, it was, I don't even remember.
It was probably more than this
one.
new camera.
It was more than this one.
Was it?
Okay, you got one-tenth the camera for a lot more money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you think about that too.
When you were using that camera, because you're so incredible with sports photography, what's important to you is probably rapid fire, right?
That's exactly it.
So this camera, how does this camera compare?
But you know, I did weddings with it because that pop flash was so good and so quick. I shot with a 24mm lens, so I'm always in close. So the recycling time for that was very quick.
Well, it's also really low resolution compared to this.
The
compared
only
to
thing,
this.
yeah, the only
yeah.
drawback is once I got the full frame, that was it.
Yeah.
It was like getting hooked on heroin. You know, so I'm not going back to anything else.
This is much faster than my other camera. And
yeah, it is faster.
So it's fast, which
We're
is important.
6.5 frames a second. We're getting 150 images in a burst in JPEG, 21 in RAW. You're getting a lot really quick.
And these are specs that 2 years ago were considered just pipe dreams.
Your buffer wasn't close to the same.
And to some of you, this might be confusing tech talk, but essentially what it means is if you are photographing your child's soccer game, you can press the shutter button down and go and get a lot of images. Or if you're photographing a wedding and you want the bride to come down the aisle, you can go and get a lot of images.
It used to be you'd push the button and get 5 or 6 or 10 pictures, and then it would just choke because it had to digest the data.
Right.
The microprocessor just couldn't keep up with it.
That's correct.
So it gives you an ability to not miss the shot. Where in in the history of photography, there were moments where you think, oh my gosh, it just froze up, and this is where the kiss is. So
even in live view, it allows us for 4.5 frames a second. So even if you are looking at the LCD and tracking focus, because of dual pixel CMOS AF, it does have all of the same autofocus systems in live view that we have in some of our other cameras like 5D4. It will do 4.5 frames a second continuous while tracking.
So can we explain live view in layman's
live
terminology,
view,
please,
yes,
for our audience?
Is when you just hit the button on the back and you're looking at the LCD just like you would when you're handling your phone or anything like that. You're not looking through the viewfinder. You're looking at the back of this LCD, or you have the LCD out. and you're using, like you said, the touch focus that you like.
So for those of you who've really grown up learning photography on a smart device, this camera is a fantastic choice for you because you still have similar functionality that you have on your smartphone, but you just have crisper, sharper, more beautiful imagery because you're using real lenses.
When is this going to be available at B&H Photo?
End of July.
Pre-order is available now, and the camera will be shipped to you within a month, which is pretty exciting. The end of July. So you can pre-order today, as far as I know.
Okay.
Pretty sure, yeah.
Pretty sure, yeah.
Yep.
So this is a really exciting day. This is the beginning of the new camera, and it's such an honor to be here and to have been invited and to talk with you all and to be invited by B&H and Canon. So.
Should we look at some of the pictures that you guys took?
I'd love to.
Sure.
I'd love to see what these guys did.
Do that. Okay, give me a second.
I only
here.
come here for the candy.
The candy. The candy's
And let's start with Liza.
Great. Hi.
There we go.
Oh,
All right.
These are great shots.
Which bar were you in when you shot this? I've never been there.
The surf bar.
Tell us a little bit about this.
Oh gosh, this image was not shot with this camera. This
okay.
is great. So this
This is portfolio.
I don't remember going there.
I don't think we went there in New York. So this image series that you're about to see is actually just a reference point to show you the sort of photography that one could take with this camera. It's photography I've taken with other cameras, but it's certainly the kind of photography that I would do again and again with this exact model. So this was a shot in California, and you'll just see a few images, but they're exactly the right kind of layout for why you would use this camera.
Another image.
Why that would work for this is because this camera, I found the colors seem to be very true, which is really important to me. It had a nice
Surfboard
saturation.
Graveyard, is that?
Surfboard Graveyard, yeah, that's actually on Maui, and they are.
That's what they call a picket fence in Maui.
That's what they call a picket fence on Maui. So I'm very particular about color. When I was working at Williams-Sonoma, I did all the e-com photography, and everything had to be so color specific because you need to know that if you're purchasing a product, it is identically matched color-wise to the image you see, right? That's the biggest amount of returns come from, I thought this was red and it's actually, orange. So a function of this camera that I noticed was the color is really spot on, and I really appreciate that. So this would be an image where you want spot on color. Here is a detail of water. So naturally, I'm getting backsplash, and this camera has the absolute ability to not get ruined.
Weatherproof.
Yeah, it's waterproof. You can't dunk it, but
No, don't
the
dunk it, please.
backsplash can get on the camera, and it's not ruining the camera. So I could be on a boat all day or over a swimming pool. What I did with that image, I photographed leaning down over a swimming pool. So I could have turned the screen and then just been looking down and taking it, and I would have more reach and be able to get an image like that with ease and not hurting my back and not straining myself and not falling in the pool. So
It's nice to be able to concentrate on taking the picture and not worry about, am I about to break something or hurt myself?
Or someone break something or someone or fall. Exactly.
Exactly.
So that's a perfect application for when I would use this versatile movement. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, the next image, this is from China, and
That's
it was
lovely.
That's beautiful.
exceptionally, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. It was very low light, and so this camera is a great example of how I could use in my travel photography somewhere that's a bit dark and really make it look as though there's quite a bit of light. So I would just pump up the ISO on this or do auto ISO, and it would look just fine. It would look great.
And to duplicate that with flash, you'd have to have some amazing flash system. Would you? But you could.
You couldn't because you would be. First of all, it's a prayer ceremony, and so you could not get that access to duplicate
Electronic
that with
flash and prayer ceremonies, they don't go
There's no
well.
way. No. So you
Bad mix.
There are so many things in life that I photograph, and I'm sure so many people photograph, where the intimacy of the moment is purely available to you because you're being discreet and you're using a small piece of gear and you're being very respectful and quiet, and you have that moment where you can get the image. So this was an on-the-fly image. It was not staged. I could never have set up lights and gotten this because I would have offended everyone, and that's not what I aim to do.
I think another important thing to mention with especially shooting people without flash,
Yeah.
is that if you are doing, especially portraits or something where they're looking in your direction, if you're using flash after 2 or 3 times, like you keep blasting
Yeah.
the person,
Yeah,
here
right.
you're not assaulting them with light.
Exactly.
It's the whole atmosphere and the whole vibe is very, very different. You could really maintain a direct contact with your subject.
Absolutely.
Without having them go, okay, it's about to happen, nothing like that going on. It's the flow is much, much different. Works better.
Flash can really intimidate people, and so having a camera that allows you to have the freedom to not need flash when you're in the field is really important.
Well, you would have never gotten that painterly quality out of
No,
that with
no,
a flash.
with a flash, never.
Never.
Yeah.
Now that we've killed flash sales here for Canon.
No, we love flashes
we
for
love
other
it
purposes.
in their
though.
place.
Right
everything's
Right
good.
time, right place. Everything has a right time, right place. And I do have a lot of flashes, but that's it. When I work with them, I'm in the studio.
Yes,
And I'm doing
everything
something very
has its place.
specific.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So this again is.
That's lovely landscape. That's beautiful.
Thank you. So very dewy. It was very early in the morning in Napa Valley, and the mist is so dense that it's almost like rain. So, being able to use this product outside and not be concerned that the dewy drops would ruin the camera would have been terrific. So this is an example, like early morning landscape photography. You all know how it gets, it's just moist.
What time do you generally get up?
Oh, when the cows get up, I don't know. When the rooster, no, I don't.
I mean, you're an hour
When
before
the-
sunrise. Let's keep
when
it
the
that.
roosters wake me up, I guess.
Well, you realize there are 2 lights. There's early morning light
Right.
and late afternoon light. So when you get a shot like that, are you up at 4 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, when you get a shot like that, you're already up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Hopefully, you've already spent, the night harvesting with the guys in the vineyard with the lights on the tractors, and then it's the last shot of the day almost as you're getting ready to go. So yeah, that's definitely how you get that shot.
Food.
Food.
Now I'm
So much of my work is food photography. I have been honored to photograph 12 cookbooks and to write 3 of them. And food photography most often is shot overhead. And so if you're not in a studio with a studio stand and you're actually shooting live at a restaurant or in someone's house, you have to be very creative about how you shoot. If it's a busy restaurant, you're not standing up on a table. So now this gives you the ability to see what is happening and shoot on the ground without having to, or you can be on the ground and shoot, it gives you extreme flexibility, which is unheard of on a camera of this quality. So
By the way, forgive
that's
me for
fantastic
not
if you're a
mentioning
food
that
blogger.
you did do 15 books, which is pretty impressive. I left that out. I apologize.
Thank you. It's all right. So if you are a food lover, a gastronome, a travel blogger, a food blogger, I really think this is the camera for you. It's going to transform your experience.
By the way,
in
we're
these
talking about
spaces.
leaning over tables for food.
Sure.
I have done similar things, just photographing things like flowers, because sometimes you can't bend around a flower or something
Right.
like that. But you can move the camera around to play around to get the sun behind it, whatever, and use the screen to compose your picture where you couldn't phically get into that. You couldn't
So
climb
true.
into the garden.
So
So
true.
it's not just food, it's anything that you want to be able to circumnavigate in a
true.
sense, and it gives you just so much more freedom. It's a terrific tool to tilt screen.
And we listen to things like what you said, because we actually have a food mode in the camera now. There's a food scene mode that
In this
boosts
one?
the colors, boosts the
know
contrast a
that.
little bit. So
Yeah.
we have a specific food mode for you in the camera now.
Wow.
So it's fun to play with.
Which is great. The T6 camera came out, and I was honored to be the spokesperson for that. And the T6 had a food mode. It was the 1st one, and it was really geared towards food bloggers. And when you put it on the food mode, it brightened the images. It
A bit more saturation.
bit more saturation and a little bit less depth of field, which was so fantastic. And we did side by side, like a smartphone, other camera, food mode in that camera, and it really was better. So it was great to see that.
So if you food, it's not like you put into food mode and I take a picture of you, you turn it into an avocado or something
No.
like that. No, I get it. It tweaks it. Okay.
That would be fun.
This is another. Every picture is wonderful. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, so this was a woman on the Dole Pineapple Plantation picking pineapples on the North Shore of Oahu. And it was one of those things, I was driving in the car, I was on the way to the airport to leave the island, and I saw her and I pulled over.
Always
And
happens, you gotta stop.
Yeah, always in the end,
You
right?
gotta
The
stop.
light was incredible, and I pulled over and I said, would it be okay with you if I just took some photos of you, and she could not have been nicer. And she said, sure, of course. And then explained to me she had been working on this plantation for 60 years. And her hands were so rough, she had to have them in gloves. It's such hard work. But she was so happy. She had the best smile, and she was just, I thought this was an example of kind of the back-breaking work that a pineapple picker goes through, and the colors and things like that.
Well, your point is well taken, that you actually stopped and you got out, because if you hadn't and you got to the airport, that image would have been in your mind.
Been there, done that.
Why the hell didn't I stop? Why am I so lazy?
Yeah.
Get out and
Get out and do it.
don't let a moment pass.
It won't happen again tomorrow.
That is
Exactly.
the most astute thing. I agree. If you see a moment, you have to take it. It only takes you 5 minutes, but that 5 minutes is the difference between fulfilling your soul and rushing to do something else. And that some of these pictures, I mean, I've won a lot of awards from the pictures I took with her that were 5 minutes of time with her, and I've won a lot of awards from these pictures. You just don't ever know. You need to do it.
And you had this grin on your face as you went to the airport saying, I did it, I got it.
I did, and it felt good. It felt great,
What is this? Oh, these are what,
These
Jim?
are sliced geodes, and they were actually, they're illuminated from underneath, and they were a bar on a super yacht. It was pretty magnificent.
I'm going to start carrying your cameras for you.
Annie Weaver, if you're watching, I just said super yacht, yes. My friend thinks I can't get through a conversation without using the word yacht. I guess she's right. So anyway, sliced geodes, illuminated from underneath. And this has just great detail. And the depth of it and the highlights and the shadows. So this camera has a great range for highlights and shadows, and you wouldn't be able to capture that kind of image without that range. So that's really important.
All right. We are now going to go, thank you. We are now going to go to Mel's photographs, and Mel shot this afternoon with the camera, so we're going to be looking at here are pictures actually taken with the new 6D Mark II. Starting off with, oh my goodness, God. Mel, I thought you knew how to take a picture.
Who is that guy?
I don't know, but he should be arrested immediately. I don't know.
Look, don't forget to sign this release, because I've already sold that 3 times.
Anyway, some feedback on this. You had a few hours this afternoon to play around with the camera. What do you think?
Play. The operative word there is play. Because for me, it is play.
Yeah.
We're sitting with a bunch of people in the thing, and I'm just waiting for expressions. So I'm playing with the camera. But now, that said, I'm deadly serious about what I'm doing. But it is playful. And you responded perfectly.
Hey, how else can I react to you, Mel?
Exactly.
Okay, here you go.
We're going to need a large one for that. We need a large print for that one.
Yeah, but there you go. Mel made a lot of friends this afternoon. And by the way, these pictures, he had just picked the camera up for the first time when you were doing this.
First time.
Yeah.
You just had the camera, we're
5 minutes
sitting there having lunch, and you're just playing around, you start shooting.
Well, it also has that wonderful lens. It's 24 to 105.
Mel and I are literally, I'm using it correctly, literally the only 2 non-full-time Canon employees who've ever used this camera thus far. So is that correct? That's correct.
Out in the public use, yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty exciting. So we're really happy to be here with you, sharing what we've learned over the last couple of days.
Now we're back out. Now we're getting into Melkor Digiacomo photography here. Here we go. Where were you? How'd you do this?
I was outside a cage for the guy who's sitting waiting for a bus. And I'm shooting through the plastic.
Ah, the glass key. Okay, yes. All right.
But I'm not looking through the the camera, because if I do any slight movement, he's going to see me.
That's true.
So I'm facing this way and the camera's facing that way. And it's pretty loose. We cropped it a little bit.
So could you have done this, Mel? Could you have been looking through here?
I was thinking of doing that. The problem was I'm not that familiar with that. That's the first time I've seen that, this thing. I mean, I've seen it on amateur cameras, and I don't know what it does. But I didn't want to miss that shot.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to take any chances on using this and, you know, pointing it the other way. I've done it 1,000 times, so I wasn't afraid of that.
And for the record, it was taken at 4:20 and it was 81 degrees.
And Spider-Man was there.
And Spider-Man was watching you. Well,
Exactly.
He took a picture. That'd be great if we could have his picture of you taking a picture of him.
This is a way
Here's
to,
another great one. This is wonderful.
I don't know if the audience can see, but if you were taking that straight shot, you could
Right.
just do this and look through there, and you'd be so discreet because the view is hiding.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a camera in front of your face. That's the,
Right.
that's the key right there.
That's the key.
And that also keeps your dialogue and and if you not only for candid stuff, but when you're actually talking to somebody and dealing one-to-one with a person, you don't have to have this box in front of you. You could hold it down.
Sure.
You could lower
Well,
it.
I mean, if
and that
guy,
just gives a better connection.
If that guy had seen me, I would have just introduced him to Joe. You know, I said, I'd like you to meet Joe. And he said, what is that going to do? I just thought you'd like to know the name of your assassin. You know, because Joe's Sicilian, you know, so.
By the way, if you look at this, we're looking at an image on a screen here, and it's a reduced JPEG, but the tonality is wonderful on this. Early on, digital black and white was pretty rough to do.
Well, you gotta
Here it's
remember,
wonderful.
I shot it in color.
You shot in color, however you converted.
it to black and white. But what I like in photographs like that, I like all the nonsense that's going on in there, all the noise, all, you know, the rhythms and textures of the
It's
whatever that
collage.
is up on top,
Yeah.
and the ladies in the background, you know. So, and the guys were great. I mean, they clowned it up for me. So.
Another wonderful shot. The layers and the dimension
Oh,
on
that
that.
one is fantastic.
It almost looks like you masked everybody in
Yeah.
a different way.
Well,
That's one
Show
shot.
them the original.
There we go.
That's the original.
Oh, yeah, this is good. Yeah, this is the original.
So, I'm saying I have a lot of latitude to crop with this camera.
Right.
I've got a full frame camera with 26 megapixels, so I know when I'm shooting that photograph and I'm shooting it horizontally, I'm still saying to myself, I got room. I don't want to have to think too much when I'm shooting. I want to be free to just feel and experience things. So,
Yep. And by the way, a little plug for cropping. You know, a camera frame is 2:3
Cartier-Bresson would have my head, because I know he always believed in no cropping. But this is not 1950, 1945 when he was shooting with Leicas. You know, what did he say?
She says that's what I believe too.
What, cropping or no cropping? No cropping? Oh God!
The camera.
No.
I don't believe in cropping either, unless
Okay.
it's going to make the picture better.
Well, I mean, but
Okay?
what the
How's
heck?
that?
That's
That's-
true.
okay.
I mean,
if
no,
you
I
can't
think
get it right in
Look,
the camera, and
look,
sometimes
if-
you can't get it right in the camera,
Sure.
you crop. And the new cameras we have today have enough meat on the bone where you
But
can
that's
crop
exactly
it and
the
still
point.
have a picture with integrity. That's
You know,
what it boils down to.
Cartier-Bresson,
However,
that's
let
fine.
us learn how to do it the right way
Stieglitz
first.
cropped his photos. Stieglitz took a horizontal photograph he took in the streets, not in Hoboken, but in New York, and he cropped it to a vertical. Now, if a guy like Stieglitz can do it, why the hell can't I do it?
You have my blessings to
Thank
do
you
so,
very
son.
much.
You can, okay?
Thank you, ladies and
Don't ever
gentlemen.
feel guilty about it. No, okay.
All right.
If anybody asks, Al said it's okay. And there you go.
And there we go.
Let's take him right in the hallway here.
Yes, he's passed by here many times.
Yeah.
In fact, I only see him passing here. I've never seen him anywhere else.
Well, he's got such a great textured face,
Yes.
you know.
He's just an
and
apparition of the building. He's not.
There
he's
are
not real.
8,000 stories in that face.
Yes, there definitely are. Okay, there we have it. Any other thoughts about the camera?
Yeah, can
And
I take it
technology.
home with me?
Yes, you can.
All right.
Yeah, if anybody asks, Al said it's
All right.
okay.
All right.
Yes,
That's going on your tab then, Al?
Yes,
I like
absolutely.
that. It's on Al's tab.
Do we have questions? Were we going to do a few questions from the audience?
Oh,
or
do
is
we
that-
have any
Audience,
questions from
we
the
don't-
audience? The hashtag BHPhotoLive. Pardon me for not giving it earlier, but if you could jump on. And let's see if we have any questions we could answer.
If my wife is tweeting and you say, I'll be home in about an hour, darling.
Okay, the question is, how does the dynamic range of the new camera compare to the 6D or the other Canon cameras, the 5D
This is a
model?
Drew question.
I can tell you that we do have a newer processor in this. This is a unique sensor for this camera, so The image quality, the highlight range, the shadow range is going to be expanded beyond what we see in the 6D. When it comes to a 5D Mark IV, though, it is a higher level product. There is a different sensor to it, so you are going to see probably a little bit more out of the 5D IV. That's why it is where it is in the lineup, and the resolution is a little higher with that, and the processor's a little bit different, so you will see a little bit more out of the 5D IV. But this is not a slouch by any means. As you can see by the images that Mel has up there, this is not something that is really going to hinder you by any means.
Camera for the first time. He hasn't even learned the camera yet.
The other thing is, I will spend anywhere from 30 minutes to 45 minutes working on a print in black and white. And here we did it very quickly because we knew we had time constraints. But I was very happy with what I saw.
Yeah, no, you pulled 3 or 4 really nice winners in there for sure.
We did some stuff out in Yellowstone, early production models, and we just had so much fun with bright highlights, dark shadow detail, and it all was retained in the camera, and it edits very well. So
dark shadow detail, that's a very critical statement right there.
It is.
It is.
Any other questions?
Carla is asking, what's the most underrated feature?
What is the most underrated feature of the camera?
What's the most underrated feature?
Hi, Carla.
Wow, you know what? Thinking back to one that's a new feature that I'm not sure is getting a whole lot of conversation is in-camera time-lapse.
Yeah, okay.
You can actually do an in-camera 4K time-lapse. You can set the intervalometer so it will take a picture every so many seconds, every minutes, every hours. Set the camera up, tell it to go, and it will produce the time-lapse movie for you. And this is the first one that will do a final movie file in 4K.
Incredible.
So it does give you a 3840 resolution 4K time-lapse movie, and it will adjust the exposure if you want after every image. So if you have
how do you spell intervalometer, whatever that is?
You're asking a photographer to spell. We can count to 3. That's always how we go. 1, 2, 3 when we take a picture, right? So, yeah.
So time-lapse, I'm sure most of you know what time-lapse is, but if you don't, it is how you achieve those stunning images that look like the sky is moving above you and you get all of the details of the stars and the moon.
Like a high-speed movie.
Like a high-speed movie, or a high-speed movie
is.
of traffic moving across the screen, or it's a high-speed movie of clouds in the daylight and suddenly it becomes evening. So that is what you would see.
Yeah.
You know, it's often used in music videos or in montage sequences in films.
Right. I think that's my kind of one that really doesn't get a whole lot of play. There's probably, depending on what you do, a couple other things that people look at and go, wow, I wish I had
nobody
that.
mentioned the little ice tray you have on the bottom that can cool your drinks down, little cubes. But all right, no. You said really no.
The feature I like most though is the man that comes and carries it around while you walk around Manhattan. That is what I liked. I had my own personal Sherpa
More questions,
for the
Deb.
day.
Yeah. Adam is asking, how is the autofocus system for taking sports photos?
I don't know about sports photos, but this is very quick. I took a couple of shots of people on bicycles that were flying by, and that was very responsive.
Yeah,
I had no problem with that at all.
On a technical level, it's the same autofocus system as the 80D. It's 45 points. They're all cross-type. If you're doing sports and action work with a 1.4 converter, there's 27 points that are f8 compatible. So if you are doing long lens with birds and sports and action, you can still use 27 different points with f8, but 45 points is a lot of places to work with for composition. It's not just there for choosing as many points as possible, but it's there for composition, and they're all cross-type, meaning they're all the same sensitivity. The center point's a little bit more sensitive, but any of those points, if you want to push it to the far left or far right for composition, don't be afraid to, because it's just as sensitive as the rest of them.
And what that means in a less technical way.
That's why you're here.
Thank you, Liza.
You're welcome. Is that when you're looking on your screen, this shows you all the, it has 45 squares that you can put up on the screen and decide where in your image do you want to be in focus more than anywhere else. So if you're doing a shallow depth of field image and you want the foreground to be in focus but not the background, you can just touch here and then the focus will go right into the foreground, which makes it really makes the manual focus obsolete, in my opinion, because if you can do it so easily with a machine that is sharper than your eyes, why would you not do that? So
Yeah, you're going to have to show me how to do that.
We will do that.
I will show you.
Yeah.
We will do that.
Yeah.
Also, you know, we're running low on time here now, but the 60 Mark II is not the only camera that was introduced by Canon. We also have the SL2,
Right.
which was introduced. For those of you who say this is just still too big and too much for me, the SL2 is the tiniest DSLR made. It's like the size of my fist. It's smaller than many point and shoots and bridge cameras, and it's an APS-C sensor. It's 24 megapixels.
24 megapixels.
Up to ISO 25,600.
Wow.
It's a neat little machine. Again, it's tiny, it's small, and you put a small lens on that, and you have a
Is that
really
half frame?
compact travel camera.
At half frame?
It's a 1.6 crop.
1.6 crop, but it's still a lot larger than a point and shoot, and it's very substantial. I shot with the original version of it, and I was pretty impressed for a little entry level camera. It was really quite
We kept the same basic size. It's a little bit bigger, but you also picked up the swivel screen on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit
Yeah,
bigger, but it's still small.
Joe's going to send me one, so I'll be all right.
We have come to the end of this presentation. So Canon has a new EOS 6D Mark II and the mini-me brother, the SL2. I can just say it's amazing how far digital technology and photography has come in a really short period of time. Just a little note, we're going to be receiving 10 6D Mark II cameras in about 2 weeks. They're going to be showcased at the Canon sales counter and kiosk, complete with Canon tech reps here to answer your questions, any question you might have. That'll be in about 2 weeks, mid-July. A special thanks to Drew McCallum from Canon, award-winning photographers Liza Gershman, and the one and only Melkor Digiacomo. And an extra special thanks to you, our viewing audience, our customers. Thank you, because you make all of this possible. And a little plug here, if you're not a subscriber to the B&H Photography Podcast, head on over to iTunes right now and sign up. It's absolutely free. On behalf of Canon USA and B&H Photo, thank you so much for joining us tonight.